Hello, greetings, karibuni sana. That is welcome to our first panel. And with me, I have an incredible roster of women panelists. And we're going to talk about global leaders, global lens. My name is Lynn Guitar once again, and I want to ask my dear panelists to introduce themselves, to tell us who they are and why they're here. And I want you to be as brief as you can, right? Because I believe we have so much to talk about. It's going to be a deep one. And our dear panelists, our dear audience, wherever you are, please feel free to engage, ask questions, chime in. We are watching you. And yeah, panelists, shall we begin?
Yes.
All right, that's a yes. I'm gonna start with you. Who should I start with? Alison, I think I'm gonna start with you, and then we're gonna pass the baton and close off with Maria when it comes to the introductions. Alison, over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. It's going to be a really good conversation. I think I'm really excited. My name's Alison, and after an international career working in over 50 countries, I became a serial entrepreneur and have now founded an emerging VC fund focusing on UK and Europe. And I'm really, really excited here to be on the discussion tonight because there's such a big pull between, localization versus globalization and the movement of people and everything in between. So it's a really, really interesting hot topic at the minute, and it'll be great to hear everyone's perspectives. Really looking forward to it.
We welcome you once again. Let's talk about globalization, shall we? Christy Stroh, this is another time to be with you again. Please tell us who you are.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Christy Straw from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a nationally recognized leadership strategist and keynote speaker and founder of Lighthouse Leadership Consultants. I specialize in the authentic authority archetype and how you can show up authentically and be powerfully visible. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today, and I think we'll have a lot to add from a different lens. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we definitely welcome you once again. Let's be authentic. And Davona, welcome back.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Lynn. I am Devonna May. I am the creator of It Girl GPT and Mogul Behavior. I am a lawyer turned global entrepreneur. I am now currently completing my self-initiated sabbatical in Southeast Asia, and my purpose is to help entrepreneurs discover their power through personal leadership and accountability while also providing them tools and insights on my personal journey to help strengthen theirs. So thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Awesome. We're happy to have you as well. Maria, over to you.
Hi, hello, ladies. Thank you for having me again on your panels. I'm Maria Dervenko. I'm a fractional COO. I used to run a tech startup that went globally on 3 continents. And this spring, I decided to venture off solo. And now I'm just helping startups or scale ups to create more structure, to scale, or to integrate, or to use AI tools. The reason why I'm here is, again, just to share my humble perspective on tech. Thank you.
Fantastic. We're very delighted to have you all. And let's just start with this one question. And I'm very curious. I want to hear from each and every one of you. From your experiences, there's something that stood out from each and every one of you. Each and every one of you has a global experience. And I'm just curious to learn more. How do we define leadership and influence in a digital age? What is influence to you, Alison, as you pass it on?
This is a great question. And, you start off with the hard ones, straight in there. What is influence? I think that in a global context, it means different things. And you have to be, culturally aware. And within different cultures, it does mean different things. Influence can be the power of a position that you've been given. It can be a position that you've earned. It can be a member of the community based on their expertise and their knowledge. But I think that what underlies all of it, no matter what position you hold or what you're doing, I think it comes down to, how authentic are you, and the respect when the way that you treat others. I think there is a difference between influence that's based on authenticity and respect, and influence that's based on power and dictatorialism and dictatorism. Excuse me.
Mhm.
So I think that, those are two very different concepts. And I think, again, some of that comes down to cultural acceptance and cultural norms. And I think that we, as, and I am based in Ireland, we sometimes become and think that, the European way or the Western way is the cultural norm, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's not.
Mhm.
That's a very colonial perspective. And we're only a small subset of the entire population of the
Mhm.
world. And I think that, there is space for
Yeah.
everyone's culture. There's space to be authentic and have respect. So no matter where you go in the world, it's about understanding their cultures,
Yeah.
understanding how things work, the
Mhm.
intricacies, and having respect for everyone.
Wow, that is very insightful to start us off. Christy, what is your view on leadership and influence? Your mic, please.
I have a pretty defined view on leadership and influence, obviously, given what I do. And so I would say this: yes, respect is obviously important, respecting cultural differences and asking to be aware of those that we're not even aware of is always a great start. But influence really isn't much more than fandom if there isn't an associated impact that is meaningful and matters to a specific group and there's an outcome attached. I am really in the space of helping guide people toward how do we use our influence that we already have and how do we use that to impact change. And so
Mhm.
for me, I look at the global responsibility of always keeping in mind, number one, what's the best right next step, right? And usually the best right next step isn't associated with profit. It's not associated with an ROI. It's associated with how we can help have a greater impact on whatever our cause happens to be. And so I tend to funnel most things through that lens when I'm thinking about the influence that I can have, because I'm just so far past the point of wanting to be an influencer. And I'm more
Yeah.
at the place of wanting to create a movement of influence.
Mm, mm. Impact that stood out for me. Davona, we're in an influence economy. What is your influence? What is leadership to you?
Yes, well, as someone who has, within the past 2 or 3 months, lived and immersed myself in foreign cultures, I believe that leadership is always about getting into the fields, getting into the trenches, and going where the people are, but using technology, the long arm of technology, to allow you to quickly learn from other people's experiences before you actually arrive. So, using social media and AI and other apps to research and explore and connect before your feet ever touch that land. I think that's the cornerstone of modern digital leadership. I think we lost Lynn there.
Yes, I do believe so.
We've gained another member though.
Listen,
Yes, we
though,
did. Hello, can you
Dave,
guys hear me? There we
we
go.
can hear you, Russell.
Hi
Devana,
there.
that was an awesome answer, though, I will have to say. So Maria, what say you? Because I think Devana really nailed it as far as her answer
Yes,
and the
yes.
responsibility.
So I have a similar perspective on leadership, to be honest, because I think we're always like chasing the newest tool, the new things that appear every day. If we only talk about AI, so for me, it's like because I work a lot with teams, companies, startups, and so on. So it's not about what's the best or the newest platform or AI out there. It's what fits in with your company's reality. What is your basic need? So because they advertise all of this like, oh, it will simplify your work, it will simplify your life, but does it really? I mean, like, so again, for me, leadership, it's basic, like making technology work for people and not the other way around. I think I said this like a lot of times, and making sure not to overwhelm your team and the company and also the people around you.
So
Yeah.
Lynn will be coming back very shortly. So I've been substituted in. That's why I was like thrown on the stage. I was not even prepared at all. Lucky enough, Christy saved me. She's like, "So guys, let's continue." So thank you very much, Christy. You saved me even, which is fantastic.
My pleasure.
But yeah, so
Coming for your role. Sorry.
So by the way, if you're wondering who I am, my name's Russell, by the way. I am Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. So we're going to continue this lovely conversation. I have no control over this deck, so I'm hoping the team behind the scenes can literally switch the deck to the next question if possible. There we go. So the next question coming up is, what values should guide leadership at the intersection of humanity and technology? So Maria, we just heard from yourself. So we're going to go to Davona, and then we'll go to Alison after that as well.
I love this question because let me just give it like this. The values that guide leadership: respect, dignity, humility, and deference. Deference is the bottom line. A lot of times when we are traveling into other people's cultures and their countries, we tend to come as we are, but I have learned to live like a local. You have to respect the land in which you are inhabiting and to take a genuine interest in the people, make them feel seen and respected, even if it's uncomfortable for you and even if it's not reciprocated. I think that there's a baseline in our character that has to be developed that doesn't deviate when circumstances change or when comfort zones change, but that's also flexible enough to expand in spite of those things. And I think this is the foundation of the mindset that's needed in order to intersect in between humanity and technology. I'll pass that along.
I mean, Davana, quickly before you pass that along, would you also say potentially that potentially even respect could be an option, or maybe even consistency? I mean, there's a lot of characteristics which leaderships have, and in general, right, so to speak, very successful ones, of course. So do you think also they come into play with the intersection of humanity and technology?
Absolutely, because respect is the space where you are entering into someone's home, entering into their culture, and you come there with a, how do you say, a humility.
Yeah.
Respect is humility. Respect is coming into someone's space and saying, I didn't create this, I didn't cultivate this, but I understand it, I respect it, and I want to learn more about it. And how can I take what I have, who I am, and integrate my abilities and my heart, my desires into what your needs are? How can we connect on that level? So, of course, respect is definitely the baseline. Respect, dignity, humility, and deference. Yes.
And what about your thoughts, Alison? What are your thoughts on all this conversation so far?
Yeah, I mean, Devani's made some great points, and I just want to build on that because she's really spot on. But I think when you think about the intersection between humanity and technology, I think we're at a pivotal moment where we have, the Gen Alpha, Gen Z are so normalized with some of the communication and the digital and being digital that it really is concerning to how that's going to impact humanity. And I think that the leaders of these companies have a responsibility to think about this. And is it just evolution? And I have this inner turmoil and inner conflict as to, is it okay? Is this evolution of humanity? As 2 out of 5 Gen Alphas talk to chatbots rather to discuss their problems and things online rather than discuss them with humans. You know, to me as a parent, I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, that's awful, you know,
Right.
and I'm a bit concerned. But then another part of me, the tech head, is kind of like, oh, that's super cool. The opportunity here is really, really good. And so I think that what is leadership is to do it right and to do it in the right way, which is not necessarily driving profits. And I think this driving for shareholder profits is very, very problematic when you're talking about technology and humanity and the merging of the two. I think we need to be more conscious about it and take the ownership. You know, there was when Grok released its little chatbots that were the little animated characters, and you had the angry red panda. You know, that's not cool. You know, and I think that the majority of people would think that the fact that there wasn't really any age limit blockers on that, you just had to pay a fee and you could access a little red panda that's an animated character that's swearing and calling you names, and you know, it can see you through the camera and can say, oh, Alison, you're looking really old today, or you know, you look fat. And it's, you know, so it's that ownership of humanity with technology and the responsibility that we have as leaders, as technology leaders, to really do the right thing and not be driven by profits, but still, you know, innovate. And some of these solutions, you know, and I'll hand over in 1 second, but if you think about, you know, chatbots and, you know, avatars, digital avatars for the elderly as a companion,
Yeah,
you know, there may be a case there, you know, where they can have a conversation with someone who, you know, looks the same as them. They can build it, you know, and it could be done in a smart way. But it's just, are we there yet now? No. Could we get there? Yes. But how do we get there is where the leadership bit comes in. And that goes back to Devani's points about, you know, what values should be valued when you're making that bridge.
No, I mean, I read a study very recently as well. It's very along the lines of AI companions. And in the study that it shows about how it changed your brain cells, right? Interacting with AI. And I think they call it AI cognitive, if I remember correctly, where, you know, it's actually I can't remember the exact terms of it, but there's two sides of it. But I know it's causing a lot of issues in both, you know, doesn't matter how old you are or who you are, it's across the board causing the same issues. And, you know, when you think about that in particular, and it is changing your brainwaves, it's like, what is this going to do, like, within the next, like, year, 2, 3? I mean, not alone long term, like in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we're talking about leadership, you know, is it our, you know, there's two sides of this. Is it A, the tech company itself, their responsibility, or is it B, potentially the user's responsibility to this too? So you got kind of like both things there.
Yeah. I think there's just, sorry, to reinforce your point. I can't remember his name, but the gentleman that built Instagram, when they did the initial testing, they removed all the outliers. All the people that would sit on Instagram and scroll and scroll and scroll for hours and hours and hours. And they were like, oh, but they're just the outliers. And they removed them. And he did an interview a couple of years ago. And he said that was his single biggest regret when building that, was to remove those outliers, because they had no idea it would become this, you know, addictive beast that it is today. But if they had even just kept them in the data set, it may have been different. So I think that's really interesting point.
No, thank you for sharing, Alison. I really appreciate that, and I completely agree with you on a lot of your points there. So, and the old TikTok brain as well. So, but Anne, please, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, and then also we'll also send the question your way as well, Anne. So, welcome.
Thanks. So hi everyone, I'm Anne. I'm based out of Singapore. I run a leadership and coach training institution. So I guess I came from the tech sector for 20 years. And of course, as tech companies, we only know as much as what's beyond our nose, right? In terms of what would happen, like Alison says about Instagram, we can try to predict the trends, but sometimes it's a beast on its own. So I think like to kind of like say whose responsibility it is, I think it's joint. I love it when we do things like what we call PPP, which is like public, which is government, private, which are like companies, as well as the public, the community, to come in and say, how do we shape this together? I think that's the best way forward. Of course, it's going to be slower than at the private company where they launch tech products really fast. But I think it does help us to save humanity some mistakes, and also having a whole lot more transparency in building the process together. So I just hope that's my dream. Help,
well, thank you for joining us, Faye. And I'm going to bring it Christy in. So Christy, since you saved me earlier, which I really appreciate, by the way, what are your thoughts as well? I want to get your input on this too, because I know you have a lot of perspective. So please share.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So listen, when I'm thinking anytime about the intersection of humanity and technology, honestly, immediately what my mind goes to is the bias of who is building and inputting the technology. And so I think there's a whole lot of responsibility that is yet to be claimed. I think there's a whole lot of accountability that is yet to be taken in regard to the bias in these AI systems. We've seen the statistics already about hiring biases and job biases and mistakes. And so a lot of the training that I go around the world to do is all about beyond the bias training. Because if we're biased towards something, whether it's towards somebody who's wired like us or the opposite, then naturally anything we build inside of our AI system is going to reflect that bias. And so I often remind people, especially leaders, when I'm consulting at that tech or user experience level, have you checked this for your own bias? And when they say yes, because they all say yes, I'll say, well, who did you have check it? Well, inevitably, it's the most ridiculous list of people that really don't have the psychological safety to say, actually, no, right? And so then we go down that construct of who is your advisory board when you're talking about introducing a new product in? Do we have diverse viewpoints, diverse perspectives, diverse nationalities, diverse cultures? And if not, why not? And how is everybody associated with this next product an additive to what we're building to keep bias out versus the other way around? That's always where I start.
No, I think that's important. And, when you're looking for bias, obviously you always have to have, people that's not yourself, basically, but also people that do have the qualifications, so to speak, in how you're saying, right? And even if they don't necessarily have the qualifications, at least you have someone else's perspective that looks at that. It's kind of like when you look at culture, right? And you need someone really from that culture, right, in order to make sure it's aligned with that culture. If you don't know that culture yourself, then you have to make sure that you have the correct culture in with that, along with the people that actually genuinely live there. So I completely agree with what you're saying when it comes to that side of things. And now I've got access to the questions. I can finally switch through. So the next question is, what I don't know if you guys if you've done this, so please do let me know if you have, but what global responsibilities do leaders hold for younger generations yet to come? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Maria on this, and then we'll go to Devana after. So Maria, what are your thoughts on this question in particular?
So on this topic, if I may share like a local example. So just in a couple of weeks from now, we will be holding here in Romania the first youth summit. and we'll have like,
Okay.
yeah, we'll have, and listen to this, children from the age of 10 to the age of 22 on the stage speaking to us and telling us how they want the world, that they are receiving to be.
Okay.
And we're really excited. We're a bunch of ladies, a nonprofit, that are putting together this. And I think it speaks to your question. What can we do? We can take action. Just doing this. We're hoping this will be a good event. Attended by a couple of hundreds of children and important stakeholders around the country, like CEOs and different people from the public.
Okay.
But that's the main thing. We want to give them a voice, and this is how we can do it. By letting them tell us what they're expecting and how they see the world now.
This is such a great idea and concept of what you're doing, because the thing is, one of the biggest things in holding younger generations yet to come, or at least helping them, like what is our responsibility in that? Well, so to speak, really is collaboration and community, right? They're two fundamentals, and it doesn't matter what you're doing or who you are. Bottom line is those two really do help when it comes to this. So the fact that you're doing that, Maria, I think that's fantastic. I think all about collaboration, all about community, all about bringing younger generations into this, education, etc. All of those are extremely important, and obviously everything that GatherVerse stands for too. But I think it's incredible what you're doing. So thank you for sharing that, Maria. And Devonna, what are your thoughts?
Yes, Maria, I just want to thank you for that. That is a fantastic initiative, and I wish I had something like that when I was a youth. So thank you for that, for what you're doing there. And I agree, we do owe our youth a platform. I think we owe them a pathway, but one that's built with knowledge and historical accuracy. We need to tell them the truth about the realities of what it is to be a leader, what it is to live on this earth and to cultivate a new energy in a new space, what it is to be a humanitarian, the ugly sides of it, because it's not aesthetic, it's not glamorous. This is the work that is so how do you say it is, there's no applause for it. There's not, until the work is done, until you're in the grave, there's no one sitting here applauding for you. So we have to instill in our youth a sense of guts. We have to instill in them integrity. We have to set an example, and we cannot dictate how they will take this responsibility and run with it, but we can at least set a standard. We can set a platform. We can give them the confidence and the empowerment. We can clear the brush, make it easier for them, give them more visibility to see ahead of themselves, and open doors, prepare tables and seats so that they can continue the journey. Again, we cannot dictate how they will, but we can set a standard and an example of how they should.
The children obviously are so important in our future, and I completely agree with you, Devonna. And thank you for sharing that, because when you think about also all this technology out now and all the emerging technology which kids have to deal with these days. I mean, back in my days, make myself feel like I'm agent, but back in my days, back in like the 90s, boy, so to speak, we didn't have to deal with that, right? We just only had the TV, let alone having to deal with phones and AI and tablets and then VR glasses and AR glasses. So it's just crazy. And I want to bring in this conversation as well, because as a technologist yourself, Anne, and really into technology, that I want to kind of with a different angle this. What global responsibility do you think leaders should hold from like a technology standpoint for the younger generations yet to come? What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's a huge responsibility, global responsibility. I think often than not, as Chrissy was saying, that not many people even talk about taking out the responsibility of being made accountable. So I think it's heavy. But I would say that there's this slogan or proverb that we say in Asia: we plant the trees for the future generation so that they may have shade to lie in the
Oh, okay.
so it's the mentality that we need to pave the way forward for the future generation, and if we don't plant the trees, then whoever will, and then the next generation happens. So perhaps this analogy can work for technology, and whoever's creating the technology, that we must remember we need to create the future for our youth, and what kind of future will we create. And of course, I really love what Maria shared about having a platform for the young voices to share what is their view of the world they want to live in the future, and perhaps we could co-create that. And if we start to invite conversation, because I mean, even we talk about by 2030, 70% of our workforce will be millennials and Gen Z. They must have a voice. And the way they look at the world is so different from how we did. Like you talk about your
That
childhood.
is true.
So they are a lot more purpose driven, a lot more about why we do things, and they want to avoid all the mistakes that we made. So perhaps that responsibility could be held jointly. But we need all hands on deck to really make this work. And perhaps not for the world yet, but maybe we start where we are in our little communities and take that forward. And I think if we start everywhere, like all of us are all over the world, if we start our little communities, we can make that effort, and then we hold hands, across the globe.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, Anne, and thank you so much. And I think also, by the way, we have lots of comments coming in. I mean, Captain Walker, she's saying she's loving this entire discussion. We've got Zone Zero saying, "Long live the '80s, Russell. You're not ancient." Thank you, Zone Zero. And Salvation saying it's absolutely amazing panel. So a lot of people are loving this discussion right now. So let's go on to the next question, which is, how can leaders use storytelling to connect global policies with human lives? This is a very interesting topic. And Alison, I can see you nodding head. So why not have a crack at this?
Yeah, I think that it's essential. I think that I sat in a panel with the on the Irish deployment of SDGs and how to get, they have a mandate for the Paris Agreement and the targets for the UN SDGs, which we're missing significantly, by the way. But how to bring small and medium-sized businesses on board and have a greater impact. And the biggest thing, that came up when we were conducting all the interviews and discussions and the data finding was people just didn't understand. And it's when you release a government paper or a piece of regulation, it's in a certain format. It's a very legal format. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It's using big words. And the reality is not everyone can understand it. And it's probably, 50 to 100 pages long. And so, to be honest, everyone's using AI to send a summary anyway. So so that's where we need to be translators. And I think of it as that it's you're taking the concept or the idea or the vision and you're translating it into a cultural fit in storytelling. And I love the way that Anne used her example of a saying from Asia, because that's exactly what we should be doing. Little analogies, examples from other places around the world where it's worked, or they've come up with a different idea. Monkey see, monkey do. If I can see someone else that's done it, I'm going to give it a shot. It's not impossible. In my house, there's no such word as impossible, because you just haven't found a way to do it yet. And it's just, how do it's a translator. And I think that storytelling is something that is innate to humanity. And it is something that makes us human. And from the age of time, we tell stories. We pass stories down through generations. It's a tried and tested format, and we trust the storytellers. And so it's a no-brainer. That is how we can communicate and how we can take these sometimes complex problems, government policies, all the madness, and really communicate it to the individual. And the individuals all have different levels, but they all can understand a story.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the creativity, you think about art, you think about, just that all goes into storytelling too. And, one thing that we all do have is, even in the age of AI, so to speak, is one thing we still have is creativity. So when it comes to storytelling, I completely agree with you a lot on that. So, yeah. And also, by the way, we've got some more comments coming in. I just want to kind of I like reading some of the couple of comments because it's very interesting to see what people are saying. And Ariesta, he said, thank you for sharing your thoughts about the future of the next generations. Love this. And Darth Vibe actually put in a very interesting question, which actually I'm going to put to you, panelists, because it's a very kind of new thing that's just literally come out. And this is maybe like a little bit of a side question, but it's still on topic. What are your thoughts on AI trust and Sora 2 for younger generations? So, Christy, do you want to have a crack at this? And if you've seen the latest Sora 2 and everything? I don't know if you have or not, but
I really have not. But I will tell you that there's a massive gap in trust, and that spans every single culture, and that spans every single bit of digital technology and the human experience. And so I spend a lot of time consulting with leaders at every level, from nonprofit to founder to enterprise wide. What is that trust gap? What is it costing you? And how can we use AI in a way that enhances and emboldens trust in an organization versus something that creates more questions and disconnect, which is what a lot of people are experiencing. And so I often consult and advise at a board level, and really that conversation looks like, what have you done to make space for people's feelings about any AI integration in their work? What have you done to make space for the grief that often accompanies transformation and change? What have you done to provide people the opportunity to share their concerns prior to a rollout? And if we slow down and do those things, that closes our trust gap, which automatically makes your chance of success for a transformation initiative 72 or 74% higher based on the last McKinsey study. And so a lot of what I do is around the trust gap in organizations and how to close that, and what the responsibility is for us as executive leaders to walk that walk and talk the talk.
No, and I do agree with you on a lot of those points. And I mean, what we work on at Just Verify, which is obviously my company and I'm a co-founder of, we literally specifically focus on verification and trust. We make sure that we focus on AI, earning your trust rather than, blindly being given. And also, what is the way in which you can, verify for AI to earn your trust, so to speak. So, yes. It is that walk in, that balance. And obviously, at the end of the day, every single individual has their own way in which they have interactions with AI and relationships with AI. So the trust is a very nuanced discussion, so to speak.
Well, because think about it. Like, here's truly an example. If you already don't trust a leader that you work with or a coworker,
true,
and they come to the meeting with a solution or an idea, and you can clearly tell they've used AI to generate their idea, I hope the first thought of everybody watching this out in the audience is, ooh, I don't know. Like, if I'm already not down with the way that person is wired and shows up in general, How do I know that I really trust what we are being presented, although it looks put together and well thought out? This is the part that leadership hasn't stopped to think about, that if your leadership brand is not on point and people already have a trust gap, it doesn't matter how nice and shiny you package it with AI. It's still biased inherently because you created it and there's a missing trust there. So that's always a conversation that leads to a lot of discomfort, but it's the conversation that needs to be had. And until that's fixed, we're just spinning our wheels.
I'd love to add to that if
Sure,
possible.
Devonna.
So, and I love this question because it actually made me think, and I'm sitting here like, what trust is a human responsibility still, and it is an arduous one, but it should not be given to AI. And I think that's why we go out into the world as humanitarians, as sojourners, as pioneers. We go into the real world to build real connections with people, because that is the only way to actually represent the different cultural perspectives, religion, our societals. Like, we have to be the human representation, and trust is the only way to acquire trust is to do it human to human. So when I was in South Korea, the way that I established trust with my clients was sitting over a home cooked meal cooked by their mother, and we sat and we talked about AI, and we talked about culture and politics. And when I was in Thailand, we would meet in local shops, and we'd have a beer, and we talk about AI and technology, and we build cultural bonds and bridges that way. And in Malaysia, we would people from all different nations and cultures and religions, we would meet in hostels and apartments, and we'd sit at a table, and it'd be really hot and the mosquitoes are biting you, but you're sitting there and you're exchanging the ideas, and we're learning that we are all seeking the same rewards, and we are all afraid of the same consequences. So trust is a human responsibility, and it should not be given to AI.
I agree. And when you think about trustworthy AI, right? Like something that I've always thought about, even when I started Just Verify, which was, what is trustworthy AI? How is it trustworthy? And the bottom line is that it's the behavior and the performance of the models themselves. How does it behave? What does it say? What does it do? How does it act? Performance-wise, is it consistent? Is it reliable? Can I still go to it and it's going to be safe to use? Or is it going to put me in harm's way and manipulate my mind and adapt my mind, etc.? So this is how I think about trustworthy AI. And I think those are the two bottom lines when it comes to AI. And I really think that when it comes to verification, when it comes to the benchmarks and the standards that need to be set, and I don't just mean the ones that are currently out there. Of course, we have ethical AI and ethics and standards and benchmarks. That's fine. But we still need new forms of benchmarks and standards to be put in place in order to have trustworthy AI. And trustworthy AI is also a mixture of all these components coming together, from ethics to bias to culture, etc. Because here's another thing too. Trust means different in different cultures. That's the other thing as well that you have to think about as well. So you've got to marinate a lot of stuff there, but the point is it has to earn your trust and not be blindly given. So on that note, we'll move to the next question, because I don't want to go on that question too long. So the next question is, what role do empathy and humility play in leadership decision making? So I want to bring in Maria onto this question, and then we'll head over to Anne after. So Maria, please share your thoughts.
So short answer will be a crucial role. Empathy is like what shows that what's the human impact of decision. And again, leaders need to have humility in order to listen to others, listen to their teams, and learn from them. Because if you're not in a collaborative workplace, or you don't listen to the people around us, this comes back to what all the other ladies before me said, being biased, not being inclusive, boards all over are just male dominated. So if you don't have all of this, you're not able to make right decision. or a correct decision that impacts and influence everybody. You will make just potentially a wrong decision that it won't go very, very good for your company or for your team.
Do you think there's other things that might come into play, like when it comes to decision making, like strategies, or maybe like the data that you get, or stuff like that? Or I'm just curious, just to kind of like broaden the question a little bit, like what other things do you think would come into the decision making side of things?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, you need to think about the strategy and the way or where your company goes. But again, this needs to be like collaborative. If you
Agreed.
make the decision on your own, and again, this comes also to AI. We now have about 5 or 6 big language models, which all the AI are based on.
Mm-hmm.
So if we only have that small amount, it comes to, are we trusting that? Is it enough? Are we sure it's not biased? Are we sure
Mm-hmm.
it has all the elements of, like, as you guys said, culture, not being biased, and so on? So
no, I agree. And also, when you're talking about models, there's like 1.8 million models out there that we know of, by the way, when it comes to AI. So there could be tens of millions of models out there when it comes to the AI side of things. So who knows what AI is out there? And even we do have the main ones, of course, and they're wrapped with different platforms around them, or even pre-trained, as in it's been trained slightly into make into something slightly different. But generally there's the fact that we have just 1.8 million models that we just know of, I mean, that's just crazy in itself. So when it comes to decision making, it makes it even more harder, because it's like, okay, am I using the best models currently out there? And even if they are the best models, are they the right models, right? As in, like, are they ethical? Are they safe, etc.? So Anne, what are your thoughts on this? Please do share your side of things too.
I love this question that you asked, because the first thought about empathy and humility is that these are soft skills for leadership. But yet, when I look at it, like, empathy is a totally human thing, as in, like, we feel emotion, but AI doesn't. AI doesn't
Mhm.
grieve. AI doesn't hope. AI doesn't, feel all the senses of the empathy. So therefore, the responsibility is on the human to empathize about the human condition and what humanity needs, and that is a heavy responsibility which AI doesn't. We can still teach AI to demonstrate empathy by saying, "Oh, I hear you, I see you," but these are all trained, but they don't feel. And the other part about humility is that, again, that's when AI is better than humans, because humans have got egos, and sometimes we don't admit we're wrong. Because we want to save our face, we want to look good, we all kinds of emotions. But when AI is wrong, they self-correct, and if we've got the algorithm and the codes and models right, they will auto-correct with no issue. So perhaps this is where, as leaders, we need to learn from AI too, on how we could also self-correct more frequently with less pain and ego. So kind of at the end of the day, I think that the responsibility still rests on us, because it's about how we process, whether it's information or feelings. And I know that emotion has been a part in AI that we had slightly more difficulties and challenges in working through as models. But who knows, one day when we get there and AI does feel empathy, then humans, you're kind of in the back seat.
No, I agree. And honestly, when you think of empathy, it's such a crucial human thing to do, and then putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And I think everybody needs to do that. But here's the other thing too, as well. I think sometimes people mix sympathy and empathy up. Sometimes people might think, well, empathy is sympathy. There's a slight difference. Empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Sympathy is feeling sorry for that person, right? As in actually having human emotions for that individual. Go ahead, Devon. I saw you on mute there, so go on.
Yeah, and please pardon me if I ramble a little bit, but this is bringing a lot of information into my head.
Well,
So
Devon, we've only got literally 60 seconds, so you're
I'm
going to have to be
going.
fast.
Dropping the ego and the convenience of familiarity. What I want to say is that leadership is truly, it's not a glamorous job. These people who are going out in the world and making it a better place, who are pioneering, they are not rich. They don't have large networks. They don't have lots of resources. A lot of the times, these are just people with a heart and a purpose, and they need to be pulled up as well. They are out here maybe looking imperfect, maybe looking disheveled, not, and they're being judged by their appearance. But I want to remind everyone that we are upholding the global nation, the weight of our global nation. And so we need to support and encourage our humanitarians. They are the core of our operating system. So when it comes to the daily realities of leadership, it's just not a glamorous job. It's not easy. And we need to have more empathy and support for the people who are walking and pioneering. So I just wanted to leave us with that.
And Devon, on that note, we have to end this roundtable discussion. Thank you so much, all of you, each and every one of you, for joining here. Apologies also for the disconnection and the technical difficulties that Lynn had, but obviously I managed to jump in, and Christy saved the day as well. So I want to thank you, all the panelists on here. Make sure you go and follow them, connect with them on LinkedIn, reach out to them, and it's been a fantastic roundtable discussion. And up next, we have a couple of videos, and then we're also going to be having another roundtable discussion. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and I'll see you very shortly. Bye.